Welcome to Smiles and Cents, where we talk dentistry, money, business, and life outside the chair. I'm Ian with Dental Wealth Partners, and as a reminder, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and not to be taken as investment advice. With that, let's get started. Awesome. So, Richard, glad to have you back on the show again. My name's Ian. This is Dr. Richard Lowe. And if you guys didn't listen to episode 1, this is a part 2 of episode 1. So, just talking about making a good deal of money, still being unhappy, trying to work through the value systems of life and what that really looks like. And so the first episode, we talked a little bit about this, but definitely want you to expand on it more, Richard, and just kind of your process of everything, where you've gone, where you've come to now. And, I think if people only listen to episode 1, they'd be walking away saying, okay, now I'm going to have this long, miserable career. I'm going to make money, but I'm going to be miserable. So clearly you have a big smile on your face. You're doing really good. Yeah. Just catch us up to speed, let's dive in a lot more.
Well, yeah, and I will say there are so many dentists who crush it and they really do well. Um, and those dentists, like, they're going to get served in this podcast because you're going to talk about money and investment and the most important stuff. I have made it my mission recently. I mean, Shared Practice is the podcast. For 9 years, the question for me has been, how do I help dentists make more money and not end up in a very difficult financial situation through practice ownership and get to the other side of it? But it doesn't always work out that way. And so my new audience I'm speaking to is both the struggling burned out dentist and the dentist who got to the other side of this and just it wasn't there. The happiness
Mhm.
isn't there. And they've got that entrepreneurial itch. Maybe if I build another practice, maybe if I do XYZ. Or even the guy who's doing great and wants to be pushed further. This dentist, she's like, I'm crushing it or I'm doing amazing and I want to go even further, doing that in a healthy way. So, and I'm grateful to be on the show in these first 2 episodes because originally I had seasons, was going to be on investing. Like I wanted to talk about topics like this. So this is really fun to be able to explore some of this stuff. So yeah, but to pick up the story from last time, I had a mental breakdown and I stepped down as CEO of a group. I felt like I wasn't being a good partner, I wasn't being a good leader, and that I needed to get out of the way and let more competent, driven individuals lead who wanted to grow and wanted to build big things. And I had to save my marriage. I had to own things and work on things because I had prioritized for over 10 years. I'd had more than one full-time job. Like I was in the army and then I was podcasting and then I was, owning 3 practices during COVID while still in the army and still podcasting. And then I was full-time clinical and I was the CEO of this growing group and all these other things. And I just, as my coping and addictions and other things kind of got worse and worse and worse, I didn't recognize myself. My health went down the tubes,
Mhm.
gained a ton of weight. My wife had a baby, and I kind of kept up with her pound for pound, and then she had the baby, and for some reason the weight didn't go away for me, but for her it
Yeah.
all disappeared. So I don't know. I got a little bait and switch.
I can
Um,
say I've been there myself too, so I can empathize with that reality.
you get that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Before we kind of move past that though, just with our culture in general, I want to ask your experience when you're so busy, like you're working 2 different jobs that are basically full time, 3 different jobs that are full time. What was the experience that you experienced either from your peers or from people around you? Was it like, man, like Dr. Lowe's killing it, like keep it up, and or was it like, hey, you got to slow down? Like, what were you receiving? Because I do feel like a lot of us just say like it's almost a compliment to say like, oh man, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. Tell me a little bit more about that for your experience.
Oh, universally, people were like, wow, what you guys are doing is amazing. Your
Mhm.
podcast. I got all this positive reinforcement from podcasting, from building this group. I was getting to teach doctors all on 4 surgery at a really high level and helping them truly excel and take care of patients. I was doing those surgeries myself. So I think that's why it was even more a slap in the face for my wife to hear probably 3, 4 years ago. I was like, I feel like I don't know how to be happy anymore.
Mm.
And for her, what she heard was like, we've sacrificed all of this, you've done all of these things, and you're still not happy. Like, what do you need? And I remember Googling I was like, what is it called when like nothing sounds appealing. Like nothing sounds good. It said anhedonia, so it's like the lack of pleasure in things.
Mm.
And I remember it was like symptom of depression. I was like, that's funny. I'm not depressed.
Yeah.
I think I was clearly depressed and heading that way and didn't
Yeah.
recognize it or admit it. So yeah, you can I think that's one of the issues is as the dentist, everything looks so good on the surface. Even if you've just
Hmm.
got one thriving practice, you've got a beautiful family, you've got a nice home, you almost can't relate or complain to your siblings or people at church or people in other spheres of your life because to them it's like, well, what do you have to complain about? Your life looks amazing. I wish I had your life.
Hmm.
And so many dentists I've talked to, it's like the more I earn, the more stress I have, and ironically, I'm not happier, and sometimes it's worse. And like I said, some people crush it and they're amazing and they're happy and all of that, but that's a great problem to have. But yeah, I think universally we get a lot of like pats on the back from everyone that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And that's I think something that a lot of people struggle with, but I've heard a lot of clients struggle with it even more because it is this, you're the leader in the office, no matter if you have one location or multiple locations, everyone's looking at you to make, call the shots. You're a clinical entrepreneur and you're working in millimeters for perfection. And then obviously then you're mom or dad when you go home and that's even more important. And you're getting just pulled into so many different ways. And so I think I could easily see that, like the dilemma of like, wow, you're doing so many things, like you're podcasting, you're coaching, and you're doing all these big events. And man, like, and I'd imagine it's almost addicting, like, but then it's just pulling you down this road that you don't want to be on anymore. So tell me, like, kind of continue the path of like, hey, you were successful, you're getting busy, now you're getting burned out, you're in this place where you said like nothing sounds good and you're looking that up, like kind of narrow in, like how do you get out of that, like what did that look like for you?
Yeah, it's funny growing up, I like faith and religion has always played a really important part in my
Hmm.
life. And as things went on, that became less and less of a priority. And maybe on the surface, it was like, okay, this is still important to me, but I wasn't acting that way. And I felt like I got to such a dark place where I had like one word prayers. It was just like help. Like I don't know what to do. I feel stuck. And I went to this conference, and this is kind of where I was. I was in a really dark place, and it was a DEO conference. And Emmett Scott, who's now the CEO of DEO, got on stage
Yeah.
and he shared this transformation. He shared his before and after, like topless before and after. He'd lost like 60 pounds. He got strong. It was this health journey, this health transformation. And it was through this men's group called Superhuman Fathers,
Oh,
which I think is a hilarious name because all of us dads, we want to be superhuman. We want to see
yeah,
ourselves in that.
you want to be
Um,
that guy to your kids for sure.
exactly, exactly. So, but like I've never been strong. I've never been in great shape. I was not a collegiate athlete. My wife married a soft nerd, and like that is what she expected. I got a DEXA scan, and the guy who did the scan looked at me afterwards and he's like, you're like skinny fat. He was like, you're technically obese on the numbers. I was like 32%, 34% body fat, but I was well proportioned. I just hit it well. If you don't
Yeah.
have a lot of muscle and your fat sits in all the right places, you
Yeah.
look like normally proportioned.
So what
Um,
what I'm hearing really from you, Richard, is you were like Tom Brady on his draft day before he actually became to look like a good athlete, is what I'm hearing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think I can even say that I was like Tom Brady at any point. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I need
Yeah.
something. I'm gonna sign up for this. And it was this bait and switch of we're gonna get you abs, we're gonna get you shredded, but actually we're gonna work on everything else. We're gonna work on being a better husband and father, confronting addictions, past trauma, and honestly being vulnerable, like telling the
Mhm.
truth and having a community. And I think that's one of the hardest things to find in dentistry is somewhere you can actually be honest with people around like
Mhm.
what is hard and what is good and what you're struggling with in your marriage, in your personal life, in your spiritual life. And this group like cracked it open for me. It helped me to confront myself. It helped me actually, it's where I stepped down because I was like, I'm not suited for this role. This is not what I want to do, and this is not who I want to be. And it helped me make the hard choices that led me to kind of really working on my marriage and supporting my wife through a really dark. And so I stepped back completely. I took multiple months of mental health leave, and this group was the only thing that like got me through all of this.
Wow. So
And
you
so my
went so you went to the DEO conference. Emmett Scott shows an extreme moment of vulnerability by showing
yeah,
himself like topless before and after. You get to the point where you then say, "Hey, I want that," and you get going in it. You start pursuing the fitness, and then
like immediately I like went
okay,
up to Emmett kids and I was like, who is the people that are helping Emmett do it? And they took me to
yeah,
the Superhuman Fathers booth and I swiped my card so fast. And then I was like, do I have to go to the gym? What is this program? I didn't even know what I was signing up for.
yeah. You're just like whatever that is, I'm in, and then you
Yeah.
realize the what to do after. So then you're in, right, and you're pursuing this. Give me the timeline there. Like you start with Superhuman Fathers, and then how long was it before you're like, wow, like this multi-practice CEO thing is not for me. Like that's a like yeah,
Oh, June of 2023. And I stepped down August, September,
okay.
is when I made that
So it's
choice.
like a 2 month, 3 month wake up for you. And in that process, were you just being vulnerable with the group and just saying like, hey, this is not who I want to be, or like what was going on at the moment?
Well, I think actually it wasn't this like magical breakthrough up front. It was actually things just continued to get worse on the personal side
Okay.
as I started to get going. Because I even had a rocky start with Superhuman Fathers. I like was kind of Mr. On and on again, off again. They didn't have as intense accountability at that point as they developed later. And my wife looked at me and she's like, I'm worried that your partners don't respect you. You're not pulling
Mm,
your weight. It was a gut punch because like
yeah.
she said, my experience of you as CEO is you in the corner on your cell phone, stressed. And so I hit this rock bottom and then started to climb back out of it. And I was waking up early, I was working out, I was eating right, I was journaling, I was studying scriptures, I was serving, I was focusing outwards. I remember
Come on.
Thanksgiving morning being at the gym at 4:30 a.m., which I was never a morning person. And
Yeah.
so I'm like waking up early, kind of leaning into the extremeness.
On Thanksgiving too, which is like the opposite of workout day.
Right. On
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. And I was journaling in the parking lot before going into Vasa Fitness and just like breaking down and crying because I realized I'm starting to trust myself again. I'm starting to
Mm,
respect myself again. I'm creating a version of myself that like I'm proud of again. And so, I was coming from a place of just kind of rock bottom and darkness. And then over the next year, I really was able to just change who I am. And I dropped 50 pounds and like I said, really worked on my marriage, stepped back completely, had multiple months of therapy, counseling, diagnosis, medication. And eventually my buddy Hunter joined, who's a dentist. He's an endodontist out of Florida. And unlike me, he was not coming from a dark place. He was like, he had his things he was struggling with, but overall, on the surface, doing much better than me mentally coming into the program. And he had an incredible transformation as well. And he's like, Richard, you need to start this for dentistry. You need to bring this format, this group style to dentistry. And so
come on.
my bank account in the meantime, like I've said in the last episode, you'd think I'm like Mr. Rolling on the money bags, Scrooge McDuck over here with the DSO. But like as the year went on, I was like, the bank account is going down and I can count the months until that,
Yeah.
the zero starts to show up. I need to do something. I was like, I'm either going to buy another dental practice and kind of start over on the practice ownership front, or I'm going to start this men's group and go all in. And I went all in on the men's group. And so I started a group called Next Level Fathers. I had 20 dentists who signed up, and that was back in November. And since then, 50 different guys have come through just over 50 people have come through the program. We've lost over 700 pounds as a group.
Come
And these
on.
dentists, which is crazy, it's like almost a ton, like almost 1,000
Yeah,
pounds
that's
of distance.
wild.
melted away. And it's incredible. It's like when you go to university, you play a sport, you're in dental school, and you suffer with other people with a common
Hmm.
goal, and you're truly open, you're truly honest, you're vulnerable. You create such a deep friendship and trust of the tribe. Like, this is my tribe. And I think so many dentists are missing that sense of like, I can be fully seen and understood here because we're all putting on the facade of success and clinical. I'm doing all these procedures and my practice is doing amazing. And we see on Dental Investment Group that everyone's got $22 million sitting in the bank. And so the
Hmm.
fact that I'm struggling means that I'm obviously a failure. When the reality is, so many people were all going through the same thing. And so that became my new next phase, was like, can I help dentists get through this like hard middle that we find ourselves in without imploding or exploding their life, without crumpling and just becoming deeply unhappy, and or without, acting out into addictions and affairs and other things and blowing up their practice and their life all at once. And along the way, let's get shredded and let's hang out. So that's what we're
Come
doing.
on. I mean, that's a great, if that's not a step to move in the right direction for the listeners, I don't know what is. Like, hey, you're going to get shredded. You're going to have a great marriage. You're going to have a great career. Like, sign me up. That sounds awesome. Like, just the process of you going through what you went through, I'm a firm believer that, like, and I don't want to sound too cliche, but like hey, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And like, sometimes God puts us in a hole to help us understand what it's like, so then we can help the next person get out of that next hole, right? And so I think it's really cool to see how you are using something that was super painful for you to go through and walk through, and you're pushing into that space and leaning into it, and now you're helping 50 plus guys walk through that. And then there's an immense influence that is coming from that. Like, that's beyond those 50 guys even, right? Because then they have their spouses and their kids and then their employees. And if you factor that, I mean, it's you're in the hundreds of thousands of people that you could potentially influence just from a handful of people that they could potentially influence. So that, I mean, that is really cool what you're doing. And I know obviously you things, but really impactful from a tangible thing that what you're doing. So excited for you in this new venture and doing that. What would you say for like for you, right? Like you just went up to the at the DEO conference, swiped the card, and you weren't super invested, but you ended up getting there, right? And doing it and
Yep.
kind of getting through. What would you say to the guy that's in your shoes right now, that's maybe listening to this and is kind of like, hey, what do I do? Like, what's my next step? Like, how do I pursue getting out of this rut, or like pursue being a better father, husband, practice owner? What's the first step?
Yeah. I think the times that I've felt the most trapped is where I lose perspective and I feel trapped. Like, that word trapped, I think, is one of the most crushing ones, where our stressors are so high for so long and it used to feel bearable and now it
Hmm.
feels unbearable. And we don't see a way out because we've built a life around an income, we've built a life around our practice, around our status, and to sell or change or start over or any of these things requires sacrifice and it'd be really hard. I think the first thing is community plus perspective. So,
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be some insane men's fitness group that's, focusing on your faith and your family and all these things, but find a few good people that you can open up with who understand, who've been through something similar, and be able to get perspective on it. And for me, there was this crucial moment before we merged into the group where I told you about that year where we lost $600,000. I was like, I just felt so trapped. And I told my personal assistant at the time, who was a dental student who had been like listening to shared practices since undergrad. So he'd been listening to the podcast for 5+ years at that point. And he was
Come on.
super gifted guy. He's already done pretty insane things already. But he looked at my circumstances. He said, "Richard, do you want to know what I see here?" Because he knew everything, because he saw me go through it all. He's answering my emails. He's helping me manage everything. And he's like, "You need to fire your doctor and close your second location and take over full-time clinical. And I couldn't see it because I was in it. And I also
Mhm.
didn't want to confront it because it felt too painful to fire a doctor and close a location. But the moment he said it, I was like, oh, you're right. And I felt instant relief, even though I still had the dread of like, okay, I got to fire this doctor. I
Yeah.
knew it was right. And I kind of had clarity again, and I was able to move into success. And that next year, I finally like made dentist money for the first time in my life because I'd been Army for 6 years before I stepped back from being clinical. You know, the year that I was clinical and CEO, probably one of my most stressful, but it was like for the first time I actually had a decent income. And perspective and community are number one for me. And with that as well, then confront what you're unwilling to confront. Is it mental health? Is it addiction? Is it your marriage? Is it a really hard decision with a partnership, a business partnership? Is it firing an office manager or, shifting gears completely? So that unwillingness to confront hard decisions often comes from feeling super trapped, which often feels from coming alone and not having perspective on what needs to happen.
Yeah, that's really good. It just sounds like that perspective a lot of times comes from a trusted source that is able to offer a reframe pretty much and just say like, hey, you're missing something here, or you're not as aware of this as you should be. So it's really good. And obviously in that community, you have to trust who that trusted source is and how they're functioning. So that's good. I think from what I've seen too, from a lot of people I sit down with and talk to, it is when you lose sight of your values and when you're in a situation where no matter what those values are, right? So like whether it's like, hey, I'm always going to be home at 5:30 to eat dinner with my kids, or I'm going to spend time to drop off my kids at school, or if it's completely something different, like, hey, I want a big house, or I want to be able to travel the world, or whatever that may be for that person. When they're outside of those values, a lot of times it leads to I'm unhappy, right? And there's a lot of things that show like, working out, eating the right food, like doing all these things. Most people value that. And also our bodies respond to that in a positive way. And sacrificing your health and your life and your happiness for money, you know, you can only do that for a short window of time before you just end up miserable. And so obviously it's kind of odd coming from a financial planner. All right. So Richard, obviously that's a lot that you shared. And I mean, it's incredible what you're doing. It's incredible that you've gone through this wake of like just pain and then engaging with that and then saying, hey, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to make a change for the better. And that you're going to create influence that not only helps that individual, but that in turn will end up helping their spouse and their kids and their employees and all these different things. And man, super excited that you're doing this, super excited about this new venture that you have. And obviously all in fours is great, but I think, personally, I think this is cooler, not taking away anything that you did previously or any other people that are still doing that. So I think everything has a time and a place, and I think you're right where you need to be for right now. And so let's talk specifically about next level fathers. Obviously, it's something you're passionate about. It's what you're leading.
Yeah.
How does somebody join in and kind of raise their hand and say, hey, Richard, I need what you went through, and I would like you to help hold me accountable, and I want to do it in a dentist specific group?
Yeah. So, two easiest ways would be if you follow me on Instagram, Dr.Richard.low. I'll have kind of the latest, I post stories there because the program fills up each month. I only let certain number of people in. I don't want to, I've learned scaling is hard and things break if you try and scale too quickly. And so I save those spots. So you'll be able to see how many spots we have left and reach out to me via DM on Instagram. And then we actually have a Facebook group that's mixed gender. It's not just men, because I've had female dentists who are like, when are you going to do a fitness group for women in dentistry? And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a authority to lead the life coaching and the spiritual side of that and the marriage side of that. Like, I kind of know how to help broken men because I'm a broken guy who's coming from this. But I've got a Facebook group called Next Level Dentist Rising Beyond Burnout. and I'm going to launch another podcast called Next Level Dentist. And so as of us recording right now, it's not released. I might release mine before yours comes out. So we'll see
Come on. Come
who
on.
actually has
I
theirs.
love it.
So go join that group. And then I'm even looking to start another Facebook group around men of faith in dentistry. And so typically we keep faith and dentistry in our professional lives separate, even though that's something that's really, really important. And it's been cool
Yeah.
in this group. We've got Christians, we've got members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we've got Muslims, we've got Sikh, we've got Hindus, all sorts of guys. But the commonality is that they care about their faith, they care about God, they want to strengthen that relationship. So look for the Burnout Facebook group, follow me on Instagram, and send me a message, and I can let you know if there's any open spots.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, Richard, great as always. Just kind of forecasting to our next show, we will definitely jump into some money conversations with investing and budgeting and trying to buy a practice, all of the above. And so continue to tune in. And as always, Richard, it was a blast. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for listening to Smiles and Cents. For more information, resources, and to schedule, visit dentistfinancialplanning.com. This podcast is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered investment, tax, legal, or accounting advice. Any opinions expressed are subject to change and may not reflect the views of affiliated firms. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal, and past performance does not guarantee future results. Please consult your financial, tax, and legal professionals regarding your individual situation.